Welcome to a demonstration of the Thomas Edison voice writer dictaphone dictation machine used in offices across this great nation during the 1930s. And at least these particular units did, 30s, 40s. And then these units, because they're electric, replaced the manual ones, wind-up ones, that came out before. They actually used a spring motor, and these actually have electric motors in them. So I've had these units for quite some time, and I was able to refurbish them and get them going. You can see the one on the right is actually turning at this moment. It's still on. And these are the cylinders for it, or at least cases that the cylinders came in. Now this is a 2-minute cylinder, wax cylinder, for home use. And you're not supposed to touch it like this, by the way. Don't do this, okay? And then this is a cylinder that was used for dictation. All right, now this one has not been shaved, so it's still got a little bit of mold and stuff on it, but it's still very smooth as far as that goes. And I didn't make this video for a long time because I wanted to find one of these. And the other thing was, this particular unit being a record and playback unit, this one being playback only, I needed a cylinder to try and record on it, and I didn't want to make the video until I had a cylinder. So I got the cylinder, and it turns out I still can't record on it, and I'll demonstrate that here for you momentarily. The recording stylus on this one was broken, and my attempt to repair it didn't work, and I'll go into that a little bit further as we go. But there is a third unit that you don't see here in this set. There was a third unit that is a shredder, no, well, not a shredder. It was a shaver. There we go. So you would use the cylinder on this unit here. So this would be the unit that the attorney would use, we'll say. So the attorney would yell down into this thing, and he would record his voice on a particular cylinder. Then after he finished, he would give that cylinder to his secretary, who would use a unit like this. Now, she probably didn't use a big horn like this on the side. I just happened to throw that on there because it fits. But she probably had a pair of headphones that she would use, little tube-type headphones. And she would put that on there, and she would listen to what the attorney told her to write, and she would type that on a typewriter and turn it into a written document. So, of course, nowadays we have computers that can do that, and, well, we still have people doing dictation today, but, of course, typically all of that is digital. There was also a piece of paper that went into this little area here. You slid the piece of paper in, and then you could mark the length, and I forget what the C stands for. It's like cut or edit or something along those lines, but you would put marks in there to tell the secretary, okay, this is where the recording started and finished, and then if I made it stands for correction. So if I made a correction, I would just push this in, and it would poke a little hole in the paper. And then I could put that over there with my cylinder on the mandrel, and I would be able to keep track of what was going on. So again, that turning piece right there is equivalent to the turntable on your standard phonograph, but in this case it's called a mandrel, and it houses one of these wax cylinders. So you would record on it. After all this work had been done, then you would take this and put it onto the shaver. You would shave it down to a beautiful shiny finish once again and use it over again. So you can see it's really thick as far as how much wax is on here versus the thickness of a home recording that had barely enough wax on it to cover one recording, much less many recordings over and over again. So you can see here, this is the little case that it came in. It says Thomas A. Edison voice writer, master wax, made in the USA. And this one here says something similar. This one just says Pro Technique Ediphone, Thomas Alva Edison, Inc. So wanted to kind of show you the process of how this works, and then in a moment I will pull the hoods up. They're not really hoods, but the bases of these will lift up, and you'll be able to see the motors and functioning of what's going on underneath. Again, these are both electric, but there are similarities to the standard phonograph that you've seen on my channel. as far as its functionality goes. So it was just ideas that were carried over to this technology. So first, I'll just kind of give you a run through on how a recording was made. So in the morning, you came to your office, known as the law firm of Databits and Databits. And I would come into the office and I would sit at my desk and I would grab a blank cylinder like this one and I would slide it onto the mandrel like this. And when I push it in, it actually clips into place. Now, did you see this little button here pop out? Well, once I push this button, it releases the cylinder and I can remove it. Now, when I got this originally, both of these units, this particular mechanism, this part here that moves back and forth, was completely seized up. And I had to grease it and mess with it for quite a while to get it to operate again. So a lot of work went into that aspect of it. But I can go ahead and place my cylinder on there and it clicks into place. Then I would grab this particular microphone here, which is just a tube, but it does have an electrical function in it. So you can, if you take this off, you can see some little beads in there, and those beads attached to these contacts here on the side and actually control the unit starting and stopping. So I would place this at the beginning of the record, the wax cylinder, and then I would just push this button here on the side, and then it would start the unit up. Now, normally it wouldn't hum and buzz and do all the other stuff that you just saw, but this unit's a little bit old. So what I would do is hold this button down while I'm speaking and speak into the end of this microphone tube, and I would flip this little lever right here down, and then it would begin to cut into the record. Now, my particular disc player, or not disc, but cylinder machine here, just kind of slides around on the top of it, doesn't really cut. And then once I made it all the way across the record and I had done my recording, I could bring it back and flip that up, and then it would make another sound and allow me to play back my recording. You can kind of hear it just playing the smooth record as it is right now. So that's it. That is how this would function. At the end of my day, I would put this on the little hook right here and hang it up, so to speak. Push this button here, take off my cylinder, and hand it over to my secretary, who would then play it back on her playback only unit, very much like the one you see here. So just to give you an idea of what it might sound like, just to get some sound out of this playback only unit, I have placed this oil funnel on here that is converted. It's an oil funnel, but it actually is and in this case it's a horn looking way down in there into the diaphragm of the playback unit there. I've placed a 2-minute cylinder on here, 2-minute wax cylinder, just for demonstration, and I'll tell you in a little bit why you don't want to do this at home. Don't try this at home, okay? This is very dangerous. But let me kind of give you some sound to listen to. And this playback unit has a weak motor in it, but we'll see if we can get it to just kind of play whatever I've put on this record here. Now, I can't tell you why there's a little squeaky sound on there. Obviously something I was doing. So here I have both of the Edison units with their hoods up, so to speak. There's actually the platform itself lifts up, and then there's a kickstand that you can pull up to hold the lid in place. And I wanted to show you these because they're really fascinating as far as their engineering goes. So these are like, I don't know, like steampunk kind of things, except for the fact that they actually are running on electricity and not steam. But again, this is the player and recorder running with a full-size, appropriately sized wax cylinder on its mandrel there. And then over on this side is the playback-only unit with a standard size entertainment record on there. So like a home use cylinder wax record is currently contained on there. And some people get all excited and say it's not a record. Well, it actually is. It's a recording, and it contains a record of sound. So I think I can get by with calling it a record, even though it is in the form of a cylinder. Let's go underneath the playback only unit first. Now this one I had to kind of hotwire it to get it to run because I did not have the original remote control or foot control for it, and it had a very complex connector back here in the back, and you can see those two wire nuts that I've placed on there to wire it in. But what you're looking at here is called the governor. So the governor controls, well, it does kind of what it says. It governs how fast the unit operates. And this particular one has a speed control on it, and you can see that little cable follows it all the way to the top, and this particular control right here controls how fast or how slow it plays. So in this case, the secretary, the receptionist, could listen to the recording in a slow or fast fashion to make sure she got all the words down. This one has some kind of power transformer in it here, and if we look over at the recording unit, it does not have one of those. So we'll go back over to this one again. There is an AC-DC switch right there because Thomas Edison was very keen on DC power versus AC. But he put the compatibility in there so that you can switch it over to DC as well as AC. And you can see that same marking here on this transformer or coil or whatever this unit happens to be. There is a switch here that controls it. If you kind of hang up the unit, hang up the part that you listen to, it would actually cause the unit to stop. Now this one has a really weak motor in it. That's just kind of a shame, but I can go ahead and turn the flywheel up here at the top manually, and it'll kind of take off. But I had to put a very loose belt on there to try and get the thing to operate. And of course, all the stuff on the inside had to be well lubricated. Everything was completely and totally locked up from being stored for many years. Now this one, on the other hand, has a very, very strong motor in it, and it's almost unstoppable. And you can see this one has the original leather belt on it as well, so that it can turn the unit. And it looks like the belt came off. The belt came off while I was making this recording. Okay, I have to fix that momentarily. But yeah, you can see it hanging out up there. It might have broke. Hopefully it didn't. In any case, over here on this side, you'll see this one has the governor on it, but does not have that speed control dial that the other one has. You can see the place for it right there, and it matches that spot right here on the playback only unit. But there's some kind of a switch here, manual switch to switch its functions from on and off, and it's an extremely quiet unit as well. Quite fascinating. All right, let's see if we can get that belt back on, and we'll get it turning, and we'll show you what happens up top as the unit is running. As I suspected, the belt in fact did break, and this is the belt for the unit. I mean, it literally is a belt. I mean, like, you could wear this thing. It is a piece of leather, and that is what drove the unit. And I believe it says Edison on there somewhere, but maybe not on this particular one. I think on the belt that I pulled from the playback only unit, it was labeled. I think you can barely see some writing right in there, but here, let's see if we can flip it over. Maybe it's a little easier to read on this side. So yeah, I'm not really seeing it. You can kind of see something in there. Of course, everything Thomas Edison related was labeled Edison. So yeah, there was no doubt as to who made that particular part. All right, we're back on the top end of the unit with the cover closed, or at least the base closed on both units. Got them both running, as you can see here. And this one now has a belt that I assembled myself. I ended up having to take a VCR belt and patch it together, and you can see that patch as it comes across the wheel there. But wanted to kind of get into how these things work. What is their basic function? And this is both a recording and a playback head. This one over here only has a playback head. It does not have the cutting head on it. And unfortunately for me, the cutting head on this one was broke, and I attempted to make my own and failed miserably. But I will show you kind of what those needles look like on the inside there. This one here has a turn screw here that turns and has a groove pitch in it that this carriage follows along, and that is what not only cuts the grooves into the cylinder, but also follows along those grooves after they've been cut for playback. Both of these units have the same groove pitch. They have the same size or pitch of turn screw on the back. Now, unfortunately, the 2-minute cylinders, which was for the Edison home unit, you can see that on my channel, that's a 2-minute cylinder player. That particular standard player will not play records made on these dictaphone machines. Well, sorry, Edison, Ediphone machines, and vice versa. So you can't play music cylinders on these as well. The groove pitch is different. So you have 3 different groove pitches actually. You have the wax cylinder, home 2-minute cylinder, you have the 4-minute cylinder, the blue amberol, and then you have these dictation units, and they are all incompatible, even though they look very similar. Let's kind of get underneath the playback head here and record head and see if you can see those 2 needles as they change places. So we're looking underneath the diaphragm here and the record cutter head as well as playback head. And if you'll see, as I move this lever down, a little cutting head comes down into place. You'll see it there, kind of hanging out there. And then if I go into playback mode, that lifts up, and another little needle comes out. See it there. Presses up against the record and does the playback. And very sophisticated system, and unfortunately I am just not skilled enough to get that other one working. It's kind of like working on a watch actually, but it could be that I didn't make my cutting stylus long enough. You can see it there hanging off of there. That is actually a bit from a drill bit, a tiny drill bit that was recommended to do the job of cutting, and just didn't end up doing the job. So in any case, that's how this part would work. Now, as far as the playback only unit, let's take a look at that one and see what that looks like. So here's the bottom of the playback only unit, and all there is 1 needle right there, and or stylus, and when I put it down into place, it just lifts and lowers onto the cylinder record itself. And you can see there is I believe it has a diamond tip on the end there, but that diamond tip could be very well long since worn out due to many hours of use on this particular player. Thank you again for joining me today for this demonstration of these Thomas Edison voice writer Ediphone dictation machines. And if you like this, and this is a fascinating technology for you, be sure and check out my Edison home phonograph that I demo on my channel. You can also check out another channel that I learned a lot from about these particular units, and his name is Victrola Guy. So just do a search for Victrola Guy and you'll see all kinds of cutting of wax cylinders on his channel. But please subscribe to my channel while you're here, and leave a comment below if you think this is cool. Let me know. And also you can follow me on my Facebook page, and there's a link down in the description. Again, thank you for watching, and have a great day full of Edison phonographs.